In Amstetten, Austria, held a dark and horrifying secret. For years, he held his own daughter Elisabeth captive in a soundproofed subterranean prison he built himself. The world remained oblivious, unaware of the nightmare unfolding beneath their feet. Fritzl lived a double life, presenting him closed doors. The truth, when it finally emerged, would shock the world and expose the depths of human depravity. It was April 2008 when the truth began to surface, cracking open the meticulously constructed facade that Fritzl had built. His daughter, Elisabeth, was now 42 years old, her life stolen, spent entirely within the confines of her father's self-made dungeon. She had given birth to 7 children, fathered by her own father, a testament to the horrors she endured. The case broke with the sudden illness of 19-year-old Kerstin, one of the children born in captivity. Elisabeth, desperate to save her daughter's life, managed to persuade her captor to seek medical help. This act of desperation for her daughter's well-being would be the catalyst, unraveling Fritzl's carefully constructed web of lies and deceit. August 28, 1984 began like any other day in the Fritzl household. Elisabeth, an 18-year-old girl on the cusp of adulthood, went about her day, unaware of the darkness that lurked in her own home. Her father, Josef, had meticulously planned her abduction, his twisted mind seeing opportunity in the mundane. He lured Elisabeth into the basement, promising help with a door. It was a ruse, a carefully constructed trap. As Elisabeth innocently assisted, Fritzl overpowered her, drugging and dragging her into the depths of the soundproof cellar he had secretly built.
The world believed Elisabeth had run away, her disappearance chalked up to a rebellious teenager fleeing a strict household. Fritzl had prepped for this, forcing Elisabeth to write a letter, claiming she had run away and warning her family not to look for her. With Elisabeth imprisoned, Fritzl's double life began. He was a man of secrets, his outward facade a mask concealing the monster within. He was a concerned father, feigning worry for his missing daughter while all along he held her captive beneath his feet.
The cellar was Elisabeth's world for years. It was a damp, windowless prison, a concrete tomb where the sun never reached. The air was thick with the stench of stale air, the only sounds the hum of ventilation fans and the distant noises of the outside world. Fritzl would visit Elisabeth in the cellar, his visits marked by rape and abuse. She bore him 7 children, their lives confined to the darkness of the basement. 3 of the children remained with Elisabeth, never knowing the world beyond the concrete walls. Another 3 were brought upstairs, raised by Fritzl and his unsuspecting wife Rosemary as their own.
Life in the cellar was a cycle of fear and deprivation. Food was scarce, medical care non-existent. Elisabeth was forced to give birth to her children alone, in the cold, damp confines of her prison, with only her captor to assist. The psychological toll was unimaginable, the years of abuse and isolation leaving deep scars on her psyche. The children, born into captivity, knew nothing but the concrete walls and artificial light of their underground prison. Their world was one of limited space and even more limited experiences, their lives controlled by a man they knew only as their captor and father.
In 2008, a glimmer of hope emerged from the darkness. Kerstin, Elisabeth's eldest daughter, fell seriously ill. The cellar, with its lack of fresh air, sunlight, and proper medical care, had taken its toll.
To seek medical attention. Fritzl, perhaps out of fear of his double life being exposed, eventually relented. He took Kerstin to the hospital, claiming she was a granddaughter he had found abandoned on his property.
The doctors, however, were suspicious. Kerstin's condition and her vague medical history raised alarm bells. The authorities, alerted to the unusual case, began an investigation. They appealed for information about Kerstin's identity, a plea that reached the wider public.
It was then that a long-dormant memory stirred in Rosemary's mind. She recognized the girl in the news reports as her granddaughter, a child she believed had been left on her doorstep years earlier.
The truth, like a crack in a dam, began to spill forth. The authorities, armed with Rosemary's information and growing suspicion, confronted Josef.
The world. And the aftermath was a mix of relief and horror. Justice, though delayed, finally began to take its course.
The trial that followed would become one of the most infamous in modern history, as the world learned the full extent of Josef Fritzl's monstrous deeds.